Hello. We'll give people a few minutes to join as usual.
Sure, no problem, Joe.
Yeah, I would set the start time to be 7:05, except that, people would then think about joining starting at 7:05 and we wouldn't get them till 7:15.
Yeah. No, it's a constant game.
That's right.
I did that once. Actually, I had this meeting that started at 10 over, and the idea was to give people 10 minutes to review the material beforehand. It didn't work.
Yeah, that's right. It's against human nature, is my opinion. It's against, the fundamental way most people operate.
Yes, exactly.
And it's kind of like the AI networking problem. Tail latency matters. Uh, you know, the first packet to arrive, how long that takes, um, isn't necessarily so important. It's how long does it take for the last person to get there.
Yes, exactly.
And for humans, that might vary every time, right? So, yeah, but I was 90% in, within the first minute. Right, but if we have 20 people in the meeting and 10% of you are late by 5 minutes, then the whole thing's late by 5 minutes. And it doesn't matter if that.
Hey, so if you're only late twice a year, right?
That's right.
It means every meeting will start late.
Yeah, exactly. Every AI job is slow if one of the parameter exchanges is slow.
Yes.
So perfect. All right.
So it seems there's only two of us, Joe. I do have one or
We
two
have
things I wouldn't mind to discuss if
Bertia,
you're.
Oren, and Satadanda have all shown up.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Sorry.
Not just
I
the two of us. But we can go through. Okay, so do we have enough to close on um, vendor code and applications or modules or containers or however you want to describe it crossed into vendor code via bridges? Did that conclusion? Did we reach the conclusion for that one yet?
I don't believe
While I
so.
was out.
I don't think so. We've hit a period of summer vacation, so the progress slowed, unfortunately.
Right. From the discussion last week, do we know what it takes to close that?
I'm not sure if I'll go that far, but I believe there's some like offline meetings occurring between the relevant parties.
Okay.
And I got the feeling that they ought to be able to make progress, but I don't think any of those people are here, so I don't know what happened.
Oh, Mark's about to show up. We'll ask him. So, Mark, I saw you showed up. Have we concluded on the vendor bridge code and GitHub crossed into applications? And if not,
Uh,
what's open?
no, we haven't concluded. We have a meeting next week on Wednesday in the morning to do some final discussions on it and hopefully come to a conclusion.
Okay.
Lots of people are out on vacation, so that's why it's next week.
Oh yeah, and that one's going to be a challenge for me because I'm actually traveling for work. But That's okay. We'll make do. All right. Does anyone have any topics for today? So, Mark, what's the main sticking point left based on last week's TSC meeting and any side conversations? What's the last sticking point on closing? Is a matter of sort of, you know, taste and judgment. That is, I don't really like the way that looks, and so we're just trying to resolve to make everyone comfortable. Or is there a like a hard technical thing, like, oh no, this would be very bad if we did it that way long term? Or is it just inertia and momentum? But we haven't been doing it that way, so now things have to change, or something else? Mute button, maybe?
Mark, did you hear the question?
Maybe he disconnected.
Oh, for some reason I went back on mute and I don't know why.
Ah, there we go. Okay. I thought that was the case.
So what was the question? Because I only got part of it.
Okay, so the question was, where is that discussion currently to your mind, right? So we had the email exchanges, made a proposal was made. It was discussed last week, I'm certain, and I know we have the meeting to resolve it, but what's the main sticking point, if you will?
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's what I was saying, I guess, when the mute cut in.
Yeah, you were on mute.
So what's going on is, first of all, the way everything's been put together, because everything's in Golang right now. It's all statically put together, and it's pretty much each bridge is sort of you want to look at it as more of a monolithic type of entity today. Golang does support conditional compilation, but it's a little bit tricky in terms of how it works. So one of the options is to use conditional compilation. The other choice would be to kind of split things out into multiple compilation paths. So you would essentially have multiple, say, main files to do things, and you'd build based upon each main file, which would then put together the static compilation set. So those are the two options, and we're investigating conditional compilation to see whether or not we can do a little bit of changes to the layout of the current design to make conditional compilation work.
Okay.
It's a Golang thing, if this was still C language, it would be, you just build it based upon the target and the capabilities you want with compile flags, and we're used to doing that, a lot of us. I think you can do something similar in Python, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've done some Python stuff. But Go is completely different in terms of it's a statically built language, and its conditional compilation is based upon, you can specify a flag, but then what you have to do is have the compile flag say, okay, I want to do this particular file for a build, but you have to have a corollary not flag when you don't want to do it for that build, which basically would put a stub in place for that particular function call. It's weird.
Yeah, that is, yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. Somebody was saying something.
No, it was me.
So, in Linux, you would just make each of the applications their own main and
Yeah.
build them, and then run them. And if you wanted to package them, you'd run, a packaging system that packaged them.
Yeah.
And containerize them, you'd run a container packaging system that would do that work.
Right.
Why is there so much resistance to doing the same thing here? Is it because of the cross product of vendor into applications, so that the bridge code would then have to have one, one main.go and one subdirectory for every application that would run on that bridge?
Well, I think
But that's kind of that seems to be the natural way to do it.
you
Because
could do it, you could do it on a per vendor basis, and you could say, okay, so for each vendor, I'm going to put in every single capability. But I think the issue that's running right now is in the case of the EVPN bridge, they may not want storage and all of the storage capabilities pulled into that. So you have
that's
to
right.
do,
So
so you want to do the compilation where, yeah, you've got a main, but the main may have the ability to enable, say, the the interface for the EVPN bridge, but not turn on storage. But it may also want to turn on.
But again, what's the argument against two separate mains, one for storage and one for EVPN? And if you want both, you build both, and then you load and run both. What is the argument against that? Because in C, that's exactly what I would have always done. And if I wanted a common API broker, that would be a third piece of code that used an
Well, then
RP.
if you have multiple mains, then you run into multiple having to make sure that those multiple mains now are maintained across all of them if something in that common main changes.
Yeah, but I have that problem because I have multiple bridges and multiple applications, and those have to be maintained. And the only purpose of the main would be to effectively do the imports, the includes, and then launch, set up whatever the vendor library is, which is boilerplate code, which actually could then be common as well and be, pulled in. So it only has to be maintained in one place because the line of code or lines of code that pull it in don't ever change. And then
the difference is you have to remember this is a statically built versus dynamically built.
Right. Yeah, but again, the static building pulls in all the right stuff, and if I change, I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe I have to go try it.
If you try it, you'll see.
And because I'm still, I guess I just am resisting the idea that you have to do a monolithic main that does conditional compilation for the combination of apps you want to run.
No, but that's not how the conditional will work, Joe.
Okay.
It'll be a main, but you have to pull all of the specifics that are currently in the main at the very top level. You have to pull those out and then use conditional compilation for the underlying package files. So if it makes a call to something, right? So let's say that I only want to turn on inventory. Let's just say I want to do a bridge and all I want is inventory in it, right? But I also have storage in there that I can turn on if I want to. So I need to isolate all of the storage related functions into a block that's conditionally compiled with a flag for storage, right? But I also have to build a stub because I'm going to make a function call to this generic storage block, right? To get it all started and initialized and run. And that stub is basically just going to return everything was good and you're never going to use it again. Versus when I turn on storage, it's going to set up all sorts of linkages to the gRPC and install all sorts of callback functions, and then it's going to actively run. So that's the difference.
Okay. All right. Has anyone in their day jobs done this and knows a better way to deal with this?
I don't know.
I mean,
I'm fig- I'm
Satyananda
I'm
or
figuring it out. So I'm not a Go expert. I'm figuring it
Simon,
out as
have
I
you
go.
guys have you guys used Go with multi-platform Go programs, multi-application, multi-platform, where they're all compiled for a single destination, system or destination container? And does anybody know the answer for this? I mean, I can't believe that, no
No,
world's ever faced this problem and solved it.
no experience with Go.
Okay. Because again, my understanding is that the multi-threading and parallel processing and low latency handling in Go is quite nice, which is why everyone wants to use it, especially for these kind of applications. But
Yeah. Well, it's all microservice based. So Go is really good for microservices. And
if I have a set of microservices, how do people deal with that? Because I want to compile 8 different microservices, and then we're going to use remote RPC type system for them to all talk to each other, right? So I'm going to
yeah.
use my so I've got to build
Eight-
8 different things and package them each in their own container. How do
Yeah.
people normally handle that you've seen?
But just what you said, you build 8 different ones and you package them in there, each in their own separate container, because when they get called, it's a run to complete. Once it's done, it pops out and says, okay, I'm done with that microservice until next time that event occurs.
Right. So I build 8 different ones, and do they build them off of one main.go with conditional compilation?
No, they build, each one has its own main.go.
Then why don't we do that? Is it the multi-bridge?
That's one of the options. We're looking at multiple options because we wanted to try to come up with a way to make everything more common across the thing and be able to turn off the different features. And right now, everything's architected with one giant blob with every single capability in it.
Right.
So you got to break it apart no matter which way you go.
Okay. Gotcha. Good. All right. Okay. I mean, that was the only discussion I had for today. I mean, we need to solve that so we can so we can get the EVP and bridge code in there in a reasonable way that doesn't break doesn't break this, for the
Well,
long.
yeah, and the goal is just to get that vendor library set that you can pull in based upon different vendors.
That's right.
So that's where conditional compilation helps in that particular case.
Okay, so use conditional compilation for the different vendors. And then
If it works, otherwise you got to do the breakout of the mains. So yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Anybody else have any other topics? Because I mean, this is the one that has to get, to my mind, this is, getting this one solved will help rather than hurt. And whatever it is, we don't want to have to redo it again in, 6 months or have it sort of be creaky and really painful. Assuming we get, 3 or 4 more applications in the next, 9 months.
Yeah.
Or,
The meeting, yeah, our meeting's next
applications.
Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're meeting to go through this again.
And try to solve it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Anybody have any questions or other comments or other thoughts?
Joe, just a reminder, we're going to have Robert Gatos from Comcast come on September 5th and present to the group his use cases for DPUs and what he would like to see out of OPI, what makes sense to him. So
Okay, so we'll make sure that gets scheduled.
Yep.
Excellent. Anything else?
Just next week during the provisioning meeting, I will be able to attend the provisioning meeting, and I'll ask again about the redfish and SZTP topic that we had a couple weeks ago. I haven't received any written feedback on it, so I'll wait for that provisioning meeting and see what we can come up with.
Right, and you sent both an email to the mailing list
And Slack to the Slack channels.
Slack.
Yes,
and there was no feedback.
no feedback yet.
Okay, reach out to Gal directly
Okay.
and prompt him, because we all have day jobs that sometimes take our attention.
Yeah.
And just
Yes, we do.
so yeah, so reach out, just reach out directly and see if we can get motion on that.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, we can invite everyone who would care about that explicitly to this meeting, say next week.
Okay.
And try to cover it there. And then the other announcement is I will be out. I will be out in September, 3 weeks. So the 12th, 19th, and 26th, I will be out. So we'll have to get Tim to cover during those calls.
Yeah, I'll see if we can chat with Tim. I believe he's on PTO this week, so
That's fine. But I say I am out. I'm like out. Like I couldn't even dial in if I wanted to. It just wouldn't work. So
all right.
all right. So all right, thank you guys. We'll end early this time. As usual, use the mailing list, use the Slack, use direct messages, and if anything comes up.
Sounds good.
All right, we will end early then. Thank you.